So if you have all of this and you're rational, you start to see that, wait a minute, man finds his own inner nature, his own psyche troublesome. He's not at peace with himself. He's certainly not even able to handle his own darker emotions. He has segmented and divided his consciousness into infinite parts. There's only one mind, one consciousness, but he has divided it into so many sections. The body and the brain, the heart and the mind, the heart and the soul and the brain, the soul and the mind. The psyche is now conscious and unconscious. The ego has, separate compartments. Well, says who? All of this division, because man is desperate to disassociate. That's a form of mind control. In fact, they know that in clinical mind control experiments, disassociation is one of the primal things. It's the first thing, is to break the mind up into many fragments. They usually do it through trauma. So man is traumatized on his own by operating in the world. He gets traumatized in his relationships. He may actually physically be traumatized by rotten parents. So we're talking about very, very physical things here. We're talking about people who may have undergone enormous abuse in their life. We may be talking about sensitive people who've been very, very betrayed and done, had terrible things happen to them. And that causes all sorts of ramifications, trauma, loss of center, terrible, terrible blame game stuff can happen, or just a frozenness, a sense of trauma that just freezes your circuitry. Lack of trust, terrible hostility, defensiveness, all of that. In fact, some people have said that the ego is nothing but a mass of defenses. Ego, consciousness, is nothing but a mass of defenses. This is completely accepted. But to cut a long story short, what happens if we get to a place where people are so novice at even dealing with the most rudimentary psychic disturbances, shall we call it? In other words, anything that comes to ruffle the surface of that, Disney World, fake Hollywood creation of their sensational life. The one-sided, the one-seasoned world person who's quite happy with that, all the things that the society provides, and who's lost themselves in society and their job and their career and their sport, and all of that. Not that these things are individually wrong, but it's about how people have got immersed in all of this. So that person who's now completely one-dimensional, who's troubled by anything that, disturbs their little view of reality, this little homogeneous world of franchised, corporatized, televised, media-sized, pre-digested rubbish that is being put out there, created ad infinitum. What happens, because the emotions don't go away. This is what Freud and all so beautifully proved. You can repress them, because this is a faculty of consciousness. It was actually a needed faculty, but we overdo it. You can repress your emotions. You can pretend they don't exist. You can forget, and then forget that you forgot, which is what repression is. However, the psychologists have always reminded you that that only works up to a point. The unconscious is not a endless dumpster in which you can perpetually dump all your psychic content, because life will bring up more challenges that again bring out those repressions. And I believe that a lot of the chaos you're seeing now and the wars and the state of that America is in specifically is a result of psychic repression. But I've explained that elsewhere. What I'm looking at right now is, could it be that man becomes so threatened, so destabilized by his own emotions, such an incredibly disassociated person, that first they run to drugs, as the culture is doing now. People run to medication, people run to sugar, to gossip, to the match, the game, whatever, all the different ways that people run to escape looking at themselves. I don't see any difference in that. And if you predict out in the future, if you sort of look with prescience and think, well, man isn't changing that status quo. He's not getting any wiser. He's certainly not turning to alleviate the problem in a good way. Well, my God, then that's pretty frightening. Is that what it means by the end of the world, the end of history? That all the idioms that have been built by our wise forefathers, we sell it up the river? When I look around at human beings, I can definitely see that coming.